Hello and welcome to the 39th installment of my grading of all of the base game cards. If you want insight into the grading system, check out the description or click on the link in the top right hand corner to get to the first video, where I explain it all. But let's get started. First up, we have Toll Station. This card has baited me into picking it up quite a few times, and often I have regretted it. It has this weird trade-off where it yields the most prot in the late game, when development isn't that important anymore. It also tends to have a higher payoff in higher player counts because more players means more space tags. But higher player count games also have less generations for this to pay back. So in some ways it is best in scenarios where it is worst, if you know what I mean. Of course, it is one of the best cards to swing banker with, especially in higher player count games. But on the flip side, it is often super unreliable as a production card. You might see your opponent developing Titanium Probe early on and pick Toll Station up in the draft, hoping he would play a few space tags in quick succession, so that you can get your MC Prod up. But then he only plays space events or no space tags at all, and you sit there with the dead card. I really don't like Toll Station that much. I think it's a D tier card, and its main use case is flipping banker. But next up we have a favorite of mine, Towing a Comet. This card is a serious threat in so many scenarios. First of all, it's one of the best cards in a Gardener fight, as it can get you from 4 plants to 8 with one action. Also, it's great in a rush in general. There are many space events that increase the temperature, but increasing oxygen can be quite difficult if you don't find the right plant production cards. Towing is also one of the absolute best cards for claiming the oxygen bonus bump, so look out for that. And lastly, it's great for Terraformer in general, and since it's a space event, it has a million discounts and rebates. I think there are a few things not to like about Towing a Comet, and quite a few things to love about it. For me, it's an A tier card. Do you remember when I was rating Dust Seals and put it in F tier? We now get to another cheap card that doesn't really do anything other than grant 1 point. Trans-Neptune Probe. It even costs 4 MC more than Dust Seals, and in exchange only offers 2 tags and no restriction. Is that worth triple the price? First of all, that question is wrongly stated. In reality, Trans-Neptune Probe isn't even twice as expensive as Dust Seals, since when including the price to buy the card, you suddenly need to compare 9 MC with 5 MC. And for that, you get 2 great tags. Space, which allows you to spend titanium on the card and triggers a lot of discounts, and Science, which is part of one of the best combos in the entire game and enables a lot of game-breaking cards. So there's often an actual reason to play Trans-Neptune in the early to mid game, even though it only grants a point, whereas with Dust Seals you are forced to play it due to the restriction. And this missing restriction on Trans-Neptune Probe also allows you to delay playing it for as long as you want if you don't need to tag. So Trans-Neptune is massively better than Dust Seals, and often a required card in the draft is one of the cheapest science tags in the entire game. If you know your opponent has Mass Converter or AI, you cannot pass him Trans-Neptune. It's a C tier card for me. Next up we have Trees, one of only 2 cards in the entire game, even including expansions, that grants 3 plant prod without relying on other cards or outside factors. Sure, it has quite a high global requirement, but in games where the temperature rushes up fast, Trees is a must pick. In most other games, it is still a solid card. I mean, if you play it in the penultimate gen, it still grants 7 plants total, a point, and a plant tag that could trigger all sorts of combos. I think out of the basic plant producers, there's only one card that tops it, Kelp Farming, and I placed that one in S tier. So Trees lands in A tier in my opinion. It is a noticeable upgrade to Tundra Farming and Bushes that come a little bit earlier on the temperature track, and is very dangerous if temperature rises quickly. And lastly for today, we have Tropical Resort. This is a card I often see misused when playing against newer players. Tropical Resort is a card that should exclusively be used in the late game, when temperature is already maxed out, or you don't want to max out temperature completely anyways, maybe because you need one more gen as an engine player. Why do you only want to play Trop Resort in the late game? Well, because Heat Prod is more valuable than MC Prod, just compare sponsors to import of advanced GHG. And while 3 MC Prod might be a fair exchange for 2 Heat Prod, it certainly isn't if you have to pay 13 plus 3 MC for it. So this you should only do if the Heat Prod is useless to you. But as I said, Heat Prod is really only useless in the late game, and by then the MC Prod became useless in turn. So realistically, you will only play Drop Resort for its points, not the MC Prod. But the conversion rate of that card just isn't that amazing. But there are other factors that can make it better, namely having a ton of steel and banker in play. If those factors apply, then Drop Resort can become a somewhat valuable point card in the late game. But again, never in the early game, and even in the late game, it's never game breaking. And because it is a super niche card that needs a few prerequisites to be useful, I will place it in D tier. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know in the comments whether you agree with my ratings, or if not, how you would have rated them differently. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing. And lastly, please check out my Twitch and my Twitter. See you in the next video.